Hi, Deb here. Today we're going to do a kind of an interesting project. We're going to use the same image and we're going to do the same effect or the same composition, I should say, in two different software programs. We're going to demonstrate how Adobe's Elements, and I think I'm using Elements version 11, and Photoshop can do the same effect, or I can do the same results basically in both programs. So I'm going to start out with elements, and I want to show them to you side by side so you can compare um, and then decide whichever program you want to use. So anyway, I'm going to start out with elements, and you'll see that I have the little girl with the red rose. I like to call this the rose project, or the red rose project. Anyway, basically what I want to do, the effect that I want to get is I want to drop out all the color around the little girl, and I only want to show this bright red rose. So that's kind of an interesting effect that I think Photoshop does quite quickly, or Adobe products, I guess I should say, Elements or Photoshop would do quite quickly using layers to achieve the result. So you'll notice that as I open the images on both sides, I have a base layer called background. And usually when you open any image in your photo editor, the editor itself has to have some reference point. So it may name it different things, but the reason you'll have one layer is you'll have a background layer or the first layer. And you'll notice that most of the time it's locked because here again, Photoshop or whatever image editor you use has to have that, they have to have a reference point before it can start actually analyzing the pixels and the color and all the different things that eventually you're going to manipulate a little bit. I should say enhance, shouldn't I? Anyway, basically if we start with this, the element side, I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate the layer. And normally it just gives me an idea of what to name the layer, and obviously it copied, since this is a duplication, it's a copy of my background layer. And here again, if you would want to choose to name the layer, that's a good habit to get into, because eventually when you start working with a lot of different layers in a composition, it'll help you manage the layers a little bit better. So right now we only got a couple of layers that we're going to use, so I'm going to stay with background copy. So now I have the background copy here. So what I want to do is I want to literally take all the color out of this picture. So I'm going to go up to the Enhance menu, and I'm going to come down to Adjust Color. And I'm going to, I could remove the color, but I don't really want to remove both layers. I really only want to desaturate this one layer. So I'm going to take that layer and I'm going to completely take the color out. And you'll see now that I have basically grayscale. And so the only part of this image that I really want to show is this pretty red rose. So I'm going to use one of the new features on the newer versions of things called the Quick Select tool. And you'll see down here in Elements, it gives me a choice. I could have a brush tool, or I could have a wand tool. And what a wand tool does is basically select a percentage of pixels that match the color you click on. And then the brush tool, it's basically just gives you a little different point of reference. The Quick Select tool kind of averages whatever your value is here, and it selects things that fit that average. Anyway, here we go. I'm just going to go up and I'm going to start with the rose, and I'm going to click around here. I'm just going to keep following it around. You'll notice that I got a little bit of her eye here, so what I'm going to have to do is go to the subtract version, and you'll see I get that right off the menu here. That's the properties menu. And you'll notice that instead of a plus, now I have a little minus, so that I can come and clean up my selection area here. I'm going to clean up a little selection right around here. Whoops, I got too much. I'm also going to get rid of the little green part there of the flower. You see I got a little too much, and I want to add back, so I can come back and add just a little bit more of my selection. Once I have my area selected, all I really have to do is find the delete key on my keyboard and click delete. And then voila, I have my red rose peeking through that background layer. And then what I'm going to do is go up to select and deselect. So I select those little marching ants, and there I have my composition. in 2 steps, basically. Now on the Photoshop side, I do the exact same thing. I'm going to right click, I'm going to duplicate the layer, and it asks me what color, what do you want to name it? Same thing. I'm going to stick with the background copy. And so now I have my layer selected. I'm going to go up to the select, up to image. I'm going to go to adjustments. I'm going to come down to hue and saturation, the very same menu, and I'm going to completely desaturate that layer. I'll say OK, and you'll notice that that layer only, you'll notice when you look at the layers, the bottom layer still has the color in it. So everything's still in color there. I'm going to go up to my tool palette in Photoshop and select my quick select tool. And I'm just going to do what I did on the other one. Also did the same thing. I grabbed a little bit of the eye. You can also use in Photoshop, you can use your Alt key to kind of put yourself back in it's kind of a shortcut way to put yourself into the subtract mode. I'm going to also subtract a little bit of that green part there. Then once I've got everything selected, I'm going to make sure that I've got, it's a little smoother there. There we go. Then I'm ready to hit my delete key, and I have my, you'll notice that I could have done a little better cleanup job there. I can always do undo. Undo is my friend. And then come back and clean up a little bit more. Whoops, that cleaned up a little too much. So I can go back to my plus and add that back in. Add a little bit more back in. And then once I've got it selected, I hit the delete key and it brings it back out again. I still didn't get that quite as clean as I could. I see that on both of them actually. Anyway, that's basically the demonstration. I just wanted to show you that in whether you use Photoshop or whether you use Elements, you can do the same technique, use primarily the same technique. It's done a little differently. The steps might be a little different. The menus might look a little different, but you can do the same thing in a couple of steps. Thanks. Bye now.